So somebody asked me, if you don't believe in God, that means you don't believe in heaven and hell. So where you think you're gonna go when you die? I thought about it, like, you know what, that's a good question. So I decided to make a little short video on it. You're right. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in heaven and hell. But I also don't believe in death. See, in science, the law of conservation of energy states that energy, the same energy that you eat to maintain, the same energy that you sleep to maintain, the same energy of an object that's in motion, that energy can't be created nor destroyed, just transformed from one form of energy to another. So it's two different kinds of energy: potential energy and kinetic energy. Potential energy being energy with the potential to be in motion, versus kinetic energy is the energy that's already in motion. So like potential energy would be like money that's sitting in your pocket that got the potential to be invested, to make money and to contribute, but instead it's just sitting in your pocket. Versus kinetic energy would be when that money is actually in motion, being invested and making money back and earning interest. So now I go to biochemistry, and the biological hierarchy of life states that atoms group up to form molecules, which group up to form cells, which group up to form tissues, which make up your organs, which work together for the organism, and organisms, all these organisms make up a species or a population. And the last level that I can relate to on a biological scale is a cell. So that leads me to this question. Are cells alive? Are cells alive?
According to Quora, yes, individual cells are life forms, and most of the ones that compose your body are alive. By alive, I mean they exhibit the commonly defined 7 characteristics of life.
So cells are alive. I was once a cell. So meaning when I was a cell, I was a living cell. So I was either a sperm cell fertilizing my mother's egg cell, or my mother's egg cell getting fertilized by my father's sperm cell, which makes a little bit more sense, but for the sake of conversation, like that sperm cell actually had to have a will to exist. That sperm cell actually was alive amongst other living sperm cells, trying to be the quickest one to the egg, like tripping, grabbing filaments and smacking other cells upside the nucleus and shit, like trying to get there first. So like a scientist can look at a cell through a microscope and say, like, I understand a cell. This is the mitochondria, this is the cell body, the cell wall, you know what I'm saying, the nucleus, and this is how cells communicate, how cells function. Because subconsciously, a human can relate to a cell, because just on a previous level, on a previous biological level, we was a cell. But how do you relate to what's next after this level of existence, which scares people? Like, a scientist can look at a microscope and tell about previous biological levels of existence, but what about looking into a telescope to tell about future levels of existence? But that's a whole nother video. And that's like the cell that you were, that was living, a living cell. Remember, cells are alive. That cell never died. That cell, like the energy in that cell transformed to an embryo, to a fetus, you know what I'm saying, like to a little baby shooter. So that's like me planting an apple seed a year ago, then going back today, digging up the apple tree. Like, it would be stupid for me to believe that I'm going to find the apple seed there that I planted a year ago, because the energy from that apple seed transformed into a seedling, into an apple tree, and I should be able to eat an apple off of this apple tree and get energy to dig another hole and plant another apple seed. So people get this fear of the next level of existence, and that's the fear that the religious institutions manipulate for you to subscribe to their doctrine, because after all, it would just make more sense to subscribe to a religious doctrine than to take the chance and burn in hell for eternity. You'd rather go to the land of milk and honey, which still don't make sense, because I wouldn't want to go to no land of milk and honey, because I'm lactose intolerant. So the land of milk and honey fuck around and leave me sick for eternity, up there with 3 thrones filled with niggas, like some weird shit going on up there. I don't want to be there. But if you could look into a microscope and tell about your previous levels of existence, can you look into a telescope and tell about your future levels of existence. But that's for another video. I just don't want to get too metaphysical, too spiritual, multidimensional on you. I wanted to keep it scientifical and physical to where everybody could relate to it and personalize the information. But yeah, ain't no such thing as death. Death was a concept that was constructed. The concept of death was constructed just to invoke fear into people. Because in Africa, there was no concept of death. In Africa, it was a crossover. You know, you got 98% of your DNA awakens at death. They call it junk DNA. You're only using 2% of your DNA, and 98% of your DNA is awoken at death. Like in Africa, there was no such concept of death. It was a concept of a crossover, of an awakening. You know what I'm saying? You aim to become Osiris for after death. For, you know what I'm saying? For the dua. So, no such thing as death.